Hey guys, welcome to the video. So in this video I'm going to be talking about how to raise your settlement's approval. So as you can see right now, my approval isn't doing so great. This is a new settlement, and all I've really done is put down a few houses and some storage. The only other thing I've done differently is I built a manor over here, which has given me 2 extra families, but they're servants to the manor, so I don't actually have them free. Besides that, this is a normal starting settlement, and if you want to get more settlers to join you, you have to increase your approval to at least past 50%. So there's a few different ways to increase approval, and they can be seen right here in the burgage plot screen. So if your approval is really low, it's probably because you haven't fulfilled these requirements from your settlers. If your settlers don't have a house to live in, that's going to be their first requirement, and then these come afterwards. So if you see anything up here to do with homelessness, I would build as many houses as you need for as many homeless you have. Once you have that taken care of, we can go with the first one, which is water access. So to give your settlers water access, you need to build a well, which is pretty cheap. And if you click on that, it'll bring up the overlay, which shows your underground water. So you have to put the well somewhere in this blue area. If this is during winter, this will be kind of difficult to see, but you should be able to zoom in and see where the lines are at. So I kind of have a city layout going right here. I have some roads already laid out. This middle strip is going to be for my utility type stuff, and then the side slots are going to be for my houses. So for the well, I'm probably just going to put it somewhere over here off to the side. So we've gone and placed this one down. I'm going to move this to high priority, and we'll just wait for that to build. Alright, so there you have it, and this guy's already getting his bucket of water. So after a while, that will affect your approval. This kind of goes month by month, so you can see the previous month we had homelessness because I hadn't built my houses yet, and this month we have nothing because there's been no benefits so far. When the next month rolls around, we will at least have the bonus for the water. So let's keep going. You can see we've checked off the water access. We also need a church, so this is a bigger one. So if you go to construction tab, residential, you can see the church is right here, and it can be quite costly for the early game. Now the location doesn't matter too much, but I usually try and keep it next to my houses, and I also try to keep it next to my manor. So we'll go ahead and place that down, and we'll just let it build. Alright, well there you go, we have our church now, and you can see our approval is actually increased by a little bit. So we were at 46%, now we're at 47%. It's not showing our bonuses yet, but it will soon. So you can see here we've got the water access, we've got the church level. The next thing down is supply stalls, so fuel, food, and clothing. Every house that you have uses fuel, and it uses double fuel during the winter. Your people need some food, and in order to level this burgage plot up to level 2, you'll need to satisfy both of these, which is basically to have 2 types of food. The most common 2 types are going to be meat and berries. If you don't have berries, you can always get a farm going, and also as long as you have 1 development point, you can go ahead and spec that into orchardry, which will give you some apples. It won't give you a lot to begin with, but in 3 or 4 years you'll end up getting a lot. I wouldn't recommend this, but you can also go into beekeeping. That'll also give you another type of food, which is honey. And if you have a pond in your region, you can also fish for an additional type of food. So in order to build marketplaces, you actually have to have 2 different buildings. You need the granary and you need the storehouse. So when you build these, make sure you put them near your houses. And I've done so right in the middle. So I'm actually going to have houses over here and houses over here. And I'm going to have marketplace somewhere in between so that the houses all have equal access to the marketplaces. The way market stalls work is when you place them down, the houses closest to the stalls get the benefit first, and it kind of permeates outwards. However, there is a point at which houses can be so far away they don't see the benefit ever, so you might have to have duplicates of market stalls placed around just to make sure all your houses get the effect. So what that might look like for me is, because there's 3 different types, you have food stalls, and then you have general stalls, which cover the fuel and the clothing together. So that means you need to have at least 2 open stalls in each area, probably, to cover houses on each side. This stuff depends a lot on how you've laid out your settlement, so just make sure your houses are relatively close together, and you also leave space somewhere near them to put marketplaces. In my earlier settlements, I would put a row of houses here and then a row of houses right next to the road, and that doesn't leave me any space for marketplaces except on the ends. You can do that, but the problem is you're only going to get the effect on the end houses, and the middle ones are probably going to be left without anything, and with no room in between, there's not much you can do. So in the past, I've had to remove an entire house and then put a marketplace in for that. So those are just things to consider when you're putting down more burgage plots. Make sure you leave space. So to actually build a marketplace, you want to go to the construction tab, and you want to find a marketplace in the logistics area. And using the marketplace is a lot like putting down, a set of houses or putting down a field. You basically have to draw 4 points, and then the amount of marketplaces within will be based on how big you make it. So you can see right here, just doing this small area gives me 9 stall locations. That's probably too many to start with, so I'm going to make this a lot smaller. So you can see right here, I'm just drawing this rectangle, and depending on how you move it, you can actually change how many you get. So you can see with this 4th point, if I angle it around, I can actually get down to 2 if I want, or I can go up to 3, 4, or, any number of marketplace stalls that I want. I'm going to go with 3 for now. And I'm putting this in the middle so that I have spaces for buildings on either side. Once I place it down, I'll build some roads as well. So something like this should work pretty well. And now once we open up the marketplace, we can see we're kind of in the red here because we don't have anyone supplying the marketplaces with goods. And if you hover over these food variety, fuel, and clothing, you can see they're all at 0% because we have nothing stocked. So for setting up your marketplaces, I would recommend you keep an overstock of 2. This is kind of a new feature, but it basically means you're just going to stock a little bit more so that if people are grabbing things, you won't run out completely. The higher the overstock, the more this should stay high because people taking things won't drop your percentage too much. That's the way it should work anyways. So once you've got your marketplace, you actually want to go back to your granary and your storehouse, and you want to employ people here. And make sure this Allow Market Stall Setup button is turned on so it's yellow. If it's not yellow, these people you employ will not create any marketplace stalls. So we'll go ahead and add 1 person here. You can see they're going to be going to this marketplace. If we had multiple, this would show you where they're actually going. And I'll do the same thing for the storehouse. So we'll speed this up, and you can see they're going to be building the stalls, and they're going to be bringing their goods over. So this guy is adding some firewood, and we don't have any food here yet, but we should soon. So the church bell is ringing, which means another month has turned over, so we're in June now. And you can see our approval has gone up just that little bit more. I'm not sure why these bonuses aren't kicking in yet, but eventually we will get up past 50%. So if we look at our burgage plots now, we've actually satisfied the fuel stall and the food stall. We only have 1 type of food, but we should get 2 pretty soon, and we still haven't gotten the clothing stall. So if we hover over that, you can see we need linen, which is pretty tough to get, leather, which is easier, or yarn. So as long as those are supplied to the marketplaces, the settlers can make their own clothing. So linen you get from flax, and you have to plant that with a farm. Leather is just processed hides in a tannery, which is doable early game, and yarn is wool that's spun from sheep. So in order to get yarn, you actually have to have 2 buildings, 1 to process the wool, 1 to process the yarn, and you have to have actual sheep in a pasture, and sheep are around 30 coin each, so not exactly an early game thing. So as you can see, in order to get clothing, we actually have to process some of our materials. So we're going to go over to the industry tab, and we're going to make a tannery. That's going to convert hides into leather. Now the way I've set up my town is kind of specific, and it's been off of a lot of experience. So you can see it would be really convenient if I can put my tannery right next to where the hides are being stored, and right next to the marketplace, which is where the leather is going to end up. That way my settlers don't have to do a lot of traveling around. It's just going to be these roads right here. So we've got some space right here, right next to the storehouse. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down, and we'll just let that build. So we've got the tannery constructed, and now we just have to assign someone to start processing the hides. So you can see right there, we've got it sped up right now, and they're actually dunking the hides, and then they're stocking them over here. You can see the rolls of leather actually on the stand, which is really cool. So it looks like now we've got the clothing stall supply checked off as well, and we just need to focus on getting our other food. In addition to that, if you take a look up here, we've actually got our approval up to 50%, and we actually have some bonuses from the previous month, which is our church level. Another important thing to mention with approval is that, as it says right here on this window, your bonuses can compound or lessen over time. So even if you get a lot of things figured out, your approval's not going to jump up quickly. It's actually going to take a few months for it to compound in. And the same thing goes for if you lose bonuses. They're not going to drop your approval right away. It's actually going to take a few months for the settlers to start complaining about it. In my experience, the thing that drops your approval the quickest is if you have a battle and you have basically dead bodies on your region. There will be like a shovel icon up here, and it will give a number of how many bodies you have to bury. If that happens, you have to go down to construction, and in the residential tab you have to go ahead and build a corpse pit. That's for any bandits or raiders. You can bury them there, but if it's your settlers, it's best to actually have a church built and then employ one of your settlers to work in that church, and they will properly bury your fallen soldiers. So if you do have a battle, make sure you take care of that, because your approval can go down to literally 0%, and once it gets down, you know, well below 50% or 25%, your settlers will start packing up and leaving your settlement. So I just wanted to show you real quick, in my other settlement, we've actually had a fire break out, and this is a good demonstration of why you need wells nearby. So we'll see if I can spot anyone. Yeah, this guy's running around trying to throw some water on it right there. And the scary thing about fires is that if they don't put it out quick enough, because the well is too far away, the fire can actually spread. So even though it's raining, I've got a fire over here, and I've also got another fire over here. So I guess this is a lesson to not leave your settlements unattended for too long, because even if they're running smoothly, anything can happen. So heading back over to our new settlement, we've actually got an increase in approval up to 52%. And now, finally, it's showing that this month we actually have some bonuses coming in. If two food types aren't showing up with one person in the granary, what you can do is add a second person. So we already have enough leather, so I can take this guy out of here, and I can add him to the granary, and we'll see if that helps. So adding another person to the granary actually produced another food stall. Sometimes this is good, sometimes this is not necessary. With our one food stall, we only have one meat in here. Each stall can hold multiple types of food. So we really don't need another food stall, but I just want to see if this gives us what we need. Alright, so very good news, guys. We've actually got both foods satisfied here. So what happened is we had another person from the granary come over and put down our second type of food, which is berries. And then we actually had settlers come out and pick up the food. So just because the food may not be sitting in the stall, it doesn't necessarily mean that the settlers don't have the bonus, because they could have already taken the food back to their home. So if we go ahead and click on the marketplace like this, we can get our overlay here, and you can actually mouse over each of the bonuses that we have, and you can see basically a summary of how that's going. Not only does it tell you how many plots you have supplied with which food, but it also tells you how much of that food you still have in storage. So that was pretty successful, guys. We've got our approval up to 53%. I think it was a little higher last month because it was the end of the month. As this month goes on, it should raise up a little bit. Now that we're over 50%, what we can actually do is build an additional plot here. I'll build a couple of them. And when your approval's over 50%, you'll actually have settlers that want to move into your settlement. So if you're between 50 and 75%, you'll get one settler per month. If you're above 75% approval, you can get a maximum of 2 new settlers every month. So if we go over to my other town here, you can see it's quite a bit bigger, and I have 83% approval. And you can see the actual shade of green is a darker green, so that's kind of the next tier of approval. And so if I put down a few extra empty houses right over here, every month 2 new people would show up. Because I don't have any extra houses, you know, I can upgrade all these, but because I don't have any extra empty properties right now, no other settlers are showing up. So that's an important point, because That's how you control your population. Just because you can, get more people on board in your settlement doesn't always mean you should, because you have to feed them and you have to have firewood for them. If you grow your settlement too fast, you can quickly face a starvation issue. And trust me, I've been there. It's really difficult to get out of that because there's only so much meat and so many berries you can pick. Now once this house finishes here, we'll actually have a chance to get a new settler to our settlement. And there we go, we finished it. If I hold tab, you can see that the little person icon is at 0, so we know that no one's living here yet, but it is open. On top of that, if you hold tab, you can see all the things that the person will need when they move in. So that goes right along with your actual requirements down here. Now just for example, if I go over to my other settlement here again, you can see I have a mixture of level 1, level 2, and level 3 plots. And as you go through, the requirements will change and get more difficult to meet. So we've already looked at level 1. This one's already met, so I could upgrade this right now. Once you upgrade this plot, it'll look a little bit different. They're going to rebuild it and add some things, so you're going to actually have a nice roof on there. When you get to level 2, the requirements increase. So you'll see the church level increases by 1, so you actually have to go and upgrade your church. The food stall supply needs to be 3 different types of food, and the clothing stall needs to be 2 different types of clothing. Now let's say you meet all of this and you upgrade this one to level 3, it goes up again. So you can see right here, the top is the same. You can't upgrade your church past level 1. That's going to be the small stone church. You need 4 different types of food, and you still just need 2 different types of clothing. So let's go ahead and look at some of my marketplaces. So you can see I kind of have a tavern in the middle of all my houses, and I have a bunch of stalls here. So we've got common goods, we've got food stall, some bread there. I've got leather and charcoal. I've got lots of bread, there's some berries. I've got some shoes here, and some more shoes there. So if you're planning on making shoes, you need to actually build a level 2 house and upgrade it to a cobbler's shop. So if you get a level 2 like this, you want to build it with a backyard extension. You go down here and select the cobbler's workshop. That'll take some money, some planks, and 1 tool, and then you'll be able to produce shoes out of leather. I made a separate video on this topic going more into depth about how to build out your burgage plots, how to make them the right size, and how to include a backyard extension and also an extra area to extend on. So you can see right here I can actually expand the living space because of the way that I built this burgage plot. So if you do want that full explanation, please go check out the other video, because I went pretty far into depth about everything burgage plots and backyard extensions. So that's going to be it for the video, guys. We've successfully raised our approval up to 57%, and if we check on our house now, we've actually got 1 person living in the open one, and we've got the 2nd building already built, and it's just waiting for a new settler. I really hope this video helped you. If it did, please do leave a like and consider subscribing. If you have any other questions at all, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll get to them. Thanks again, and have a good one, guys.